guys? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about uh, one of the few issues that I've recently learned about concerning Camperdan here. And I know you fellow R50 owners can probably already guess what I'm going to be talking about here. But let's get into it. One of the first things that I thought to do was to cover some basic routine maintenance. An oil change was one of them. So I did the oil change. I wasn't really satisfied with the amount of oil that came out. I know that this particular V6 holds approximately 5.3 quarts of oil. I got less than that. Let's fast forward a few hundred miles later. Me and the wife were getting ready to go adventuring. We didn't exactly know where we would end up. So in this case, we ended up driving all the way over to Arizona, and we came back home to Vegas. But I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and check, the oil. And at the time, I wasn't even thinking about my Pathfinder. I was actually thinking about my Ultima here. So when it came down to Camperdan, I wasn't too concerned because again, I acquired the truck. I rapidly proceeded to cover routine maintenance, changing the oil. But I was like, well, since I'm checking the oil level on this car, but I'm actually using the truck at that time, I was like, let me check the oil. And I did not like what I seen. When I pulled the dipstick out, it was almost down to the L mark. And I was like, okay, this isn't good. The oil filter's on nice and tight, so is the drain bolt. So yes, what this appears to be is an oil burning issue, and it seems to be a universal issue amongst the 3.5 powered Pathfinders or R50s. I haven't been able to dive into the 3.3 enough to yet know whether or not if that engine too has an inherited oil burning issue. But it's very sad for the 3.5 VQ because that was an unforeseen thing. And had I known about it, I probably would have thought twice about purchasing the truck. But I'm gonna be real and honest, I'm crazy about my Pathfinder. Finding a 5-speed Pathfinder is very rare, let alone a 4x4 one. And when this one came up for sale, I just had to have it. I bought it from an older gentleman. I liked the way it drove, I liked the way it rode. So when I learned about the oil burning issue, it was a bit of a downer. But then I was like, hey, I already have the truck. I'm not gonna sell it. I'm keeping it because it's rare. The fact that it's a 5-speed, it's worth keeping. It is somewhat disheartening to know that it has an oil burning issue, but now that I know and I've been rounded and educated in the matter, I'll do any and everything within my mechanical abilities to ensure that I have the proper level of oil in the engine at all times. So one of the things that I noticed after acquiring this truck and spending some time under it, it doesn't appear to have any oil leaking down anywhere under the engine. The truck is parked in my driveway. There's not a speck out there. No oils for that matter. Although the transfer case, it is showing signs of leaking, but it's nothing to where it leaves a spot on my driveway, which is amazing. I don't know how. From the little bit of research that I was able to do, the very same day that I discovered that I had some oil that was just inexplicably disappearing, I have heard that there is an issue concerning the valve cover, mainly the gaskets, that they do go bad. That's not a deal breaker for me. We see those type of things go bad on just about all vehicles at some point, especially if you own them for any significant length of time. Let's be real, it's a 20-year-old truck. Most rubber and plastic parts are on borrowed time as it is. But even with that, I do see signs where the oil is getting through the valve cover gasket there, but it's not so much that it's dripping down the sides of the engine. You can see signs, you have the obvious grease marks and then the dirt that accumulates there. And as far as I can see, whenever I do look in that area, I don't see where it's like, oh, the oil is just pouring out of there. Like, no, it's nothing like that. Also, I heard the PCV valve being mentioned. Sadly, I would probably never ever get to that thing, and I don't think I'm gonna pay the hellacious labor cost to have someone take the upper plenum off just to change the itty bitty part. Doing some research on the forums, and it seems that it's a common issue in the R50 community concerning this 3.5 VQ. This isn't my first V6. My Maxima, my 97 Maxima was a V6, although it was a 3.0. But it's built on the same premise. But it was really sad to find that out after purchasing the vehicle. Now, it's not a deal breaker. I'm at a crossroads right now where I've already come to terms with it. It is what it is. What I do now is that I frequently check the oil, and if I plan to do any extensive driving for more than a few hundred miles, I keep oil in the back of the truck with me. It's used mainly on the weekends for camping and just having fun. But outside of that, it's mainly just sitting in the driveway. Like, that's where it lives. We've already pulled a trailer with this thing, a 6x10 cargo trailer. The engine's never given me any trouble, never skipped a beat. Like I said, I've changed the oil, I've changed the air filter for the engine, and the cabin air filter, which was absolutely gross. Oh, we had to change a few bulbs. When I first acquired the truck, fog lights didn't work, the bulbs were dead, so I went ahead and replaced those, simple replacement. This was the number one issue that I wanted to take time out and mention, because it is an imminent issue if you don't keep your eye on it. And sadly, if one was never told or just doesn't practice those routine maintenance checks, because technically we all should be checking out fluids, especially your oil, really frequently, regardless of how old a vehicle is, regardless of what make it is, whether or not if it's been known to be an oil burner, you should be checking. I would say at least once every 30 days, if not more. If you own an R50, you should be checking your oil more like every week. But, you know, for most vehicles, a 30-day spot check is good enough. But if you have an R50, make sure you're checking your oil quite frequently and other things. Because you're not going to know that something's an issue if you're not looking for it. And by the time you do get notified of said issue, it might be already too late. So don't get caught with your pants down, guys. Make sure you're doing these checks. Make sure you're checking your oil level frequently. Personally, I feel like my truck has lots of power. So for me, it does exactly what I want it to. I just figured it would be a nice way to open up the topic, because I'm interested in what you other enthusiasts are doing out there to cope with this inherited issue. Have you replaced your engine? Have you done a rebuild? Have you just said, you know what, this is not that type of vehicle, it's just a fun mobile and I'm gonna live with it? I'm curious to know what you guys think, and let us know down there in the comments, because this is something that needs to be discussed, and more so for the new individuals like myself who are coming in to the R50 community. We don't know about this issue, and it's a big one, because if you're not watching for it, you know, that's goodbye engine, goodbye truck if you're not mechanically inclined. I'm not a professional mechanic, I'm a DIY guy, and I'm just like most of you out there. We're just trying to keep things going, and more importantly, have fun with our vehicle. And we can't be having fun if we have to worry about the overall health of our engine.